September 2012, Stamford Bridge. A 21-year-old Brazilian receives the ball with his back to goal, takes Pirlo and Vidal out of the game with one touch, and with the second chips the ball over the legendary Buffon. That night, it felt like Brazil had found the new Kaká. He was Chelsea's golden boy, one of the brightest playmakers in the Premier League, and a player a club paid crazy money for to send him to China. And from the outside, it almost looks like his career was a fairy tale about a gifted kid who stepped straight into big-time football. But the truth is that behind that list of trophies is the story of a teenager who at 17 wasn't fighting defenders. He was fighting his own club. Sao Paulo were holding on to his contract, his family was taking the team to court, and while he was stuck watching games on TV, his peers were already playing on the pitch. Oscar dos Santos Emboaba Jr. was born in 1991 in a small Brazilian town called Americana in the state of Sao Paulo. At the age of 11, Oscar joined Sao Paulo's youth academy. He was often thrown in against older boys, and time after time, he proved he could handle any level of competition. The first major turning point in Oscar's career came when he tried to move to Internacional. What followed turned into a full-blown legal battle, and for almost 3 months, he wasn't allowed to play, waiting for a court decision. Inter of Porto Alegre became his real school of senior football. He made his first team debut at 17 and quickly stood out with goals and assists, including in some of the most important matches of the National League. In 2011, Oscar went to the Under-20 World Cup and turned the tournament into a personal showcase. In the final against Portugal, he scored a hat trick, an extremely rare achievement in World Cup finals at any level. Brazil lifted the trophy, and the skinny number 10 became the new symbol of an entire generation. Just a year later, he made his debut for the senior national team, and almost immediately went to the 2012 Olympic Games in London, where Brazil won silver and Oscar became one of the key players of the squad. In the summer of 2012, he was signed by Chelsea. The first months in London were a real challenge. A new language, a different climate, a new style of football, all of it could have broken a young Brazilian. But in his very first real test, a Champions League group stage match against Juventus, he scored twice. Then, in an away game against Shakhtar, Oscar pulled one goal back in the 89th minute. A few weeks later, in the return match in London, he opened the scoring with a shot from the halfway line, putting Chelsea in front. In the Premier League, he played more than 30 matches, scored several goals, and delivered passes that often launched Chelsea attacks. By the end of his first season, he had forced his way into the starting lineup of a team that, in many matches, relied heavily on his creativity in midfield. But the defining moment of the season was the road to winning the Europa League. Oscar played an important role throughout the knockout stage, and in the final against Benfica, where Chelsea won 2-1 and lifted the trophy for the first time in the club's history. It was his first major European title. In the summer of 2013, Mourinho returned as head coach, bringing with him a much higher level of demands for every player. The young Brazilian was given the chance to play as a number 10, a role at the club traditionally associated with experienced creators. The season began, and in the very first Premier League match, Oscar scored his first goal of the campaign. Against Fulham, he once again made his impact, reacting quickest to a rebound. In the Champions League, against Basel at Stamford Bridge, he scored right at the end of the first half. Even though Chelsea lost that match 2-1, his goal became one of the most talked about moments of the game. January the 1st, an away match against Southampton. Oscar scored a beautiful goal and added 2 assists. A 3-0 win for Chelsea. As the season went on, Chelsea often won not with flair, but through calm control in midfield, and Oscar became one of the players who defined that balance. He scored 8 goals in the Premier League that season, and 11 in all competitions, making him one of the most productive midfielders in the squad. And that brings us to the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, a tournament played on Oscar's home soil. In the opening match, Oscar received the ball in the center of the pitch, beat one defender, and fired an unexpected shot 3-1. But Brazil's journey was far from easy. Then came the semi-final against Germany, a match the entire world was talking about. In the first half alone, Germany scored an unbelievable 5 goals. The game ended 7-1, and Oscar was the only player to score for Brazil. He then returned to Chelsea, With the season in full swing and Chelsea gaining momentum, Oscar scored one of his league goals against Aston Villa. His next goal came in an important away match against Crystal Palace. Those points mattered, coming at a stage of the season when the battle at the top of the table was at its most intense. In a home match against QPR, Oscar once again got on the score sheet, finishing with a classy strike using the outside of his foot. After the match, Mourinho said Oscar had delivered a dynamic and very useful performance in that game. At the start of the new year, Oscar scored again, this time against Newcastle at Stamford Bridge. In the same match, he also provided an assist with a backheel. One of the standout moments of the season came in a 5-0 win over Swansea, where Oscar scored twice, showing confidence, quick decision-making, and a natural eye for goal. And then, after a strong run of victories, Chelsea secured the Premier League title early, finishing the season with 87 points. That season, Oscar played 42 matches in all competitions, scored 9 goals, and provided many key assists, numbers that clearly reflect his impact on the team's game. The next season became the moment when expectations collided with the reality of football. In England, they say, after a title, it's always harder. Everyone expects the same brilliance, while inside the team new challenges and pressure begin to grow. He entered the season as one of Chelsea's key creative midfielders, but both his role and his numbers started to change. Across the league and other competitions, he played around 40 matches and scored 8 goals in all tournaments, while in the Premier League itself, he found the net about 3 times. He remained an important player, but he was no longer the same consistent source of goals and assists he had been a year earlier. That season, the Premier League was won by Leicester City in one of the most shocking title runs in history, while Chelsea finished only 10th. It was a dramatic season for the club, and for Oscar personally. In the 2016-17 season, Antonio Conte arrived at the club. He came in with a completely different vision: intense pressing, a crowded midfield, and maximum intensity in every phase of the game. For Oscar, it meant one thing: adapt or risk losing his place in the starting lineup. In the opening rounds of the season, Oscar was still starting matches, but as time went on, his playing time dropped noticeably, and he began appearing more often from the bench. In the first half of the season, he played only 9 matches, just 5 of them as a starter, and registered 1 assist in the league. It felt like his Chelsea career had reached a critical point. From a player trusted with deciding matches, he was slowly becoming someone fighting for every single minute on the pitch. Fate took its turn, and Oscar left Chelsea before the season was even over. In the winter, he accepted an offer from the Chinese club Shanghai, a move many people did not understand and one that became one of the most controversial decisions of his career. Without him, Chelsea under Antonio Conte went on an incredible run, took control at the top of the table, and eventually reclaimed the crown of English football by winning the 2016-17 Premier League title. And even though Oscar was not part of that final push, he still received a Premier League winner's medal, because he had played enough matches in the first half of the season to officially be part of that title-winning squad. His departure marked the beginning of a new chapter, and in many ways, the climax of a historic period in his career. After that move, his prospects at the very top level were essentially buried. He chose long-term financial security for his family, and as a father, you could argue it was the right decision. In China, Oscar arrived like a new hero. He didn't just play, he became the team's leader, the captain, and the face of Shanghai. Over 8 seasons, he played more than 240 matches and scored around 77 goals. With Shanghai, Oscar won 3 Chinese Super League titles, the Chinese FA Cup, the Chinese Super Cup. After incredible years in Asia, in December 2024, Oscar returned to his boyhood club, Sao Paulo, where his career had begun when he was still a teenager. He signed a 3-year contract, spoke about his gratitude to the fans, and said he wanted to help the team succeed in Brazil's top division. However, his career soon faced a serious challenge. In 2025, medical tests revealed heart-related issues. During training sessions, Oscar suffered fainting episodes and was hospitalized. Doctors explained that his condition caused sudden drops in blood pressure and heart rhythm, leading to loss of consciousness. a diagnosis that put his future in football under real threat. After long discussions and medical consultations, in December 2025, Oscar made the decision to retire from professional football due to health risks. It was a painful choice. Football had been his life since childhood, but it was also a decision rooted in respect for his own body and love for his family, which he had always placed above everything else.